Mag ik even dan even disconnect en doen? There were some questions about this recording and where it's going to be, well, it's going to be on the internet, publicly available. Everyone of you that have registered, we have your email address, and therefore we will send you an application where you can find this. But it will probably just also be, hopefully, well recoverable on our websites. So just, or you can always mail me and ask where the stuff has gone. So it's the idea that it's the recordings and also the slides. Right? So you can probably get them. Next speaker, Dietz, go ahead.
Thanks, Stijn. As Stijn asked already in the beginning, I will shortly introduce myself. I am a young retired professor at the University of Delft. And in fact, in my second life, because I have another appointment now at the same university. And like the speaker after me, after the break, I hope to continue for a lot of time. That's a real old chap coming after the break. Okay. This was, and still is, the title of my presentation. I think I didn't coin it myself, Stijn did it somehow, but I thought, oh well, that's not bad. So let's take this one, Enterprise Engineering and Enterprise Ontology. That's what I'm going to talk about along this outline. And I can quite swiftly follow that outline as long as you do not interrupt me. But please feel free if you have any questions to do that. So, some thoughts I would like to share with you about the idea of enterprise engineering. This is still an idea, it is not yet there. You cannot talk yet of a discipline of enterprise engineering, but a lot of people in the world are working towards that direction. Then one of the major ideas within enterprise engineering, enterprise ontology, well, you could say that is already somehow established in the world. And I will talk about what it is, how it did emerge, and in particular after that the so-called C theory that underlies enterprise ontology. And in the end, you could say Demo is a methodology which is particularly a methodology that encompasses enterprise ontology, but you could also say it is a pioneer methodology within enterprise engineering, whatever that may be. Well, let's have a look at enterprise engineering. This is a quote in a recent paper I wrote with Jan Hogevorst. And yeah, since there may be people in the audience that are not engineers, I will now explain what an engineer is. And that is not somebody who is by education engineer. Engineer is something you are born with or not. And that also means that there are people educated as engineer, which I would not consider engineers. Yeah? Okay, this is enough, isn't it? Yeah. The last part of the sentence about the managers, that is something that is worrying all of us, isn't it? Erik talked particularly about middle management. I think that is the major problem, the division of managers. Yeah, okay. Maybe I come back to that, but not at the moment, okay? Now, so what is the basic point of view in enterprise engineering as an emerging discipline? That is that enterprises are designed and engineers artifacts that consequently can be redesigned and re-engineered. That doesn't mean that we take this kind of technocratic attitude that an enterprise for us is a machine. No, it isn't. But you can do something with the structure. That's the last comment, we have fundamental awareness that enterprises are social systems, which means consisting of human beings. Now, I've used the term enterprise, and that is the most general reference to any cooperative of human beings to do something, to have some common goal, which may be to be an enterprise like Goldman Sachs, or to be a ministry or university, or also organizing the birthday party of your youngest child or grandchild. You don't do that yourself, of course. Business is the word I will use when I talk about what the enterprise is doing in society, and organization if I look just at what it is, and not at the business side. Now, what are the generic objectives of enterprise engineering? And at the same time, these are the major problems we see and we want to address in society. First, unity and integration. If you look at any enterprise, except maybe organization of the birthday party, there is not real unity and integration. You see people do in the same enterprise things that are very counterproductive. You see enterprises that, for instance, say in their mission, we care for customer intimacy, customer friendliness, and at the same time you see that this is now referring to a copier company that sends copiers at customers' sites, and then they pay the maintenance people for every visit they bring to the customer. So the customer will see these people every week. Now that is customer friendly. The second one, mastering complexity. That is a very major thing, major idea. It means, in fact, that whenever you have to do something and you do not understand what you are doing, don't do it. This is what I always tell managers. Because they are not able to master the complexity they are dealing with. Now, what we do in enterprise engineering is develop appropriate theories and powerful techniques based on that, and one of them is enterprise ontology. That allows you, makes it possible to get intellectual manageability. And the last one is in fact one that has come up in the past years, but at the moment I'm very, very happy that we included it, and it's standing next to the other two, employee involvement. The problem that is addressed by this objective is that when you look nowadays at almost all, there are a few exceptions, enterprises, you see people bored, people unhappy, people fed up, people starting at 9 o'clock thinking of when will it be 5. That cannot be what it was meant for always. Yeah. So what can we do about it? And the idea in enterprise engineering is involve these people much more than you do now. And this is in fact contrary to what middle managers from MBA education tell us, want us to do. And I hope Jim is making notes. I don't know why. There is one idea that came up when I was listening to Erik about all the things that we are discussing today, and I forgot, in fact, to bring it into my presentation. That is underlying our problems, I think. That is the difference between the Anglo-Saxon model and the Rhineland or Rhenish model. You know what I'm talking about, yeah? Maybe you've now time to think of. Okay.
Are you jealous?
No, but maybe in our panel discussion. But I think this is also something that runs through it. Yeah, the basic difference, the basic different paradigms we have in Europe, or still have, at least we had in the past, and this stupid American thing. Yeah. Okay. What is the mission of enterprise engineering? Well, to combine relevant parts. There are good parts in the traditional organizational sciences. And the information system sciences, I will show you a slide later in which you can see this. And to develop appropriate theories and methodologies. Just so for the purpose of doing our work. And we have already three fundamental notions that have emerged or are developed. Enterprise governance, enterprise architecture, and enterprise ontology. Now, what is enterprise governance? This is a book written by Jan Hogevorst, my co-author of the book about the principles of enterprise engineering, the paper, Principles Engineering. Conceptually, enterprise governance is the capacity of an enterprise to change, in fact, and to direct device changes, so it includes innovation, but also the bringing about of changes. So practically, it is the continuous authority to develop and install organizational changes. And if you like to compare it with operational management, it is just complementary. Yeah? So you have, on the one side, you have to run the mill, but also you have to think of, do I want to run the same mill tomorrow or not? Do I want to change something? That's governance. Governance does not mean that you have assigned it to particular people. So in our view, and also Jan Hogevorst's view, it is something that is, well, that can also be expected from employees. You have to organize somehow things, but also operational people can have governance ideas.
Like Dropbox.
Like?
Like Dropbox.
Yeah, okay, sorry, yeah. The idea of Dropbox, yeah.
Well, actually, some organizations, people themselves in the organization start escalating the question, this is a sensible thing to do now.
Yeah.
So the governance debate in that sense starts there too.
Yeah, sorry, but it's a good example of governance from the bottom, from the workflow. Enterprise architecture. You see two books here that particularly convey this idea that it is a deliberate restriction of design freedom on top of specific requirements. So now we are talking about a development process of any system, whatever it is. In particular case, well, both books are particularly about enterprise architecture. Practically, it is a set of design principles, and in devising these design principles and applying them when you implement changes, you are able to achieve alignment between such in operation. So the example that I gave at the beginning of this copier company, if they would have had in place a proper architecture, then this would not have happened, that you pay maintenance engineers per visit, yeah? Because that would be not consistent with the mission. Then the third one, Enterprise Ontology. This is the best book I know of in Enterprise Ontology. Conceptually, it is the understanding an enterprise's construction and operation that is independent of realization and implementation. I will come back to what I particularly mean by realization and implementation. Practically, it is the highest level constructional model, so that you need if you would like to redesign, re-engineer, re-implement the organization. This is typically about organization. I'm looking now at the construction. The Chow network is a network of people that do the research for this emerging discipline of enterprise engineering. And the current members are the TU Delft. You could say there it started. Alexander Broek is still involved, but maybe he will withdraw from this community someday. We have Novi, that's the most recent one, I think. We have the Technical University of Lisbon, University of Antwerp, St. Gallen, Switzerland, Nizhny Novgorod, that's in Russia, you can imagine, yeah. Tokyo Institute of Technology, University of Madeira, that's the best one. to be. And then we have what we call observers, so people that may become members. That is CSIR is for the Dutch people like TNO in our country, so a National Research Institute. We have University of Kyoto, also Japan, IBM Research Almeida, and a polytechnic in another place in Portugal. And stupid. This is an old one. Sorry, Eric.
Yeah, we were thinking.
Yeah, you were. Yeah. So I could have done this intentionally, but it's not the case. No, Tudor. Oh, wrong. You are even not here, so it is some.
It's really not so.
No. Sorry. So the Tudor Institute, about where Eric talked about, is also a member of this. Do I forget another one then? No.
Just the most important one.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's go to the subject of enterprise ontology. So now I have sketched the broader framework of enterprise engineering, in which enterprise ontology has a definite place. What is it? I said already. It is the essence is that it is the implementation and realization independent thinking of the construction of an enterprise, so the organization. Founded on the perceived theory, to which I will come back later, that stands for performance and social interaction. And the basis, foundation of that theory, you could say, so my main sources of inspiration have been Jürgen Habermas' theory of communicative action, the system ontology of Mario Bunge, Ludwig Wittgenstein's world ontology, and the workflow loops, which you may not know, of Fernando Flores and Raúl Medina Mora, two, well, early pioneers in what I later will call language action perspective. Now the word ontology originates from two Greek words, ontos and logos. Now you do know what logos is, but maybe ontos is a bit new. That means being and also essence. So what is something really? That's ontology. Yeah? So this is about the essence of enterprise. As you can also speak of the system ontology of any other system. Yeah? Two fundamental different perspectives on systems. That is an important one, I think. Function and construction, of which all other are somehow a specialization. Now the function perspective comprises a lot of things. In fact, it is numerous. Yeah? There's no limitation to it. You can talk about value, purpose of a system, particular enterprise, usefulness, security. You just add. That's all things in the function perspective. The construction perspective is only about what the thing really is. If you open the mechanic alarm clock and you see all things inside, that is construction. Yeah? And if you are focusing on construction, you are not concerned at that moment in function. Okay, a few more notes on function. This is the most basic one, I think. Function is not a system property. So you can, in fact, not say what is the function of this system. It is a relationship between the system and the stakeholder, which means that any system can have as many functions as there are stakeholders. Yeah? It is in the eye of the beholder. Now, if you understand that, you also understand that black box models of systems, which are models of the function, and they are called black box because they are the construction, they show only the function in the eye of the beholder, yeah? Which can be shared among a community. And we all know that the function defined as the intended purpose by its designer of a laptop is to use it, well, more or less as I do it. And you can do more things with it. But I also can use it as a press papier, for instance. Yeah? Or, I don't know, yeah? Any other purpose. I want to use it. Examples more in our field. So the E3 value model is a model of the enterprise's business. It's functional. Yeah? An either zero model, maybe you didn't know that, but that's also a functional model. And the data flow diagram also. In the early 70s of the last century, I started to work. 1970, I started to work. I'll never forget that first day. I never had get used to it. But before that, I was studying. You know, this is the major change in life. That day, the first day you are going to work. Now, what I did was at Philips, and they call that automation, or all the things we do with IT in practice, and we had to use data flow diagrams. I didn't know these things, but okay, not so difficult to understand. But I also saw that they were not of much use. So it was just prescription, we had to do that, to use it. But as a programmer, you read these data flow diagrams and then you put them aside. And you apply to the people who produced them, but after a week you shifted it in the trash. Yeah? Because they are not useful for programmers. Why not? I didn't understand it at that time, but now I do. They describe the function. I wanted to have some generic description of the construction I had to make. Yeah. Oh, that's far too quick. So, taking another system, function is the driver's perspective of a car. Driver is a function that we share. Most people who have a car use it to drive. But you can also use it as a press papier, or to sleep in, or to grow plants in it, or I don't know. You can use cars in many, many ways, of course. If the function is complicated, we have a technique called functional decomposition, and you will find that back in data flow diagrams and either zero diagrams. Yeah. And what you effectively do then is decompose your black box model, your mental model, into a number of sub-models that you can go on and on and on. Important to understand and keep in mind is that this is still, how far you go down, is still black box model. It's still a description of the function. It doesn't say anything about construction. And it's also not true that if you decompose very, very deeply that you come to construction components. That is the greatest nonsense I've ever heard and read in books in our field. Yeah? Okay. And you can easily see this because if you would like ask a engineer, a mechanic, car mechanic, to decompose the physical car in these four pieces, he's not able to do it. He probably gets mad because he doesn't understand why it does. It's not going. Now, construction. That's an objective notion. A system, you could say, is its construction. Yeah, that's the essence. They show openly the construction, these models, and therefore they are called well, mostly white box models. Examples: demo model of an enterprise organization, pattern model of a workflow, and the UML object diagram of a software system. These are perfect white box models. The car again. Now the perspective of the mechanic. Construction and operation. If the construction is too complicated, he also has a technique, constructional composition or decomposition in this case. And then you get something like that. Now the major difference between this decomposition and the other one is this is only one. There's only one decomposition. You can disassemble a car here in front of us, and then you also can reassemble it, and that's quite difficult because there's only one way. In black box model, everything goes, yeah? Because it's only in your mind, it's only mental. Communication. I didn't speak about that, but communication is for enterprise ontology a major underlying notion. The basis for understanding construction and operation of organizations. the word communication comes from the Latin word communicare, means sharing something with somebody. And originally it could be anything. It could be your boyfriend or your horse, for instance. But now we particularly use it for sharing thoughts. So that is what communication is about. And that is made possible by languages. We need languages to do that. In the context of organizations, we have two perspectives for languages. We have the language fact perspective, and we have the language action perspective. You know the last one. You probably do not know this one. I've talked about that about 10 or 15 years ago, but I didn't hear people still talk about it, so I thought this is something to bring up again. Well, you do know what it is, but you don't know the name. Now, what happened in the late 60s of 2011? The first professor in information processing, Börje Langerfors, at the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, Sweden, proposed to... Oh, sorry. You know what I mean, or not? The past century, the 20th century. Yeah. You are a very attentive audience. Okay. He talked about, let us distinguish between ecological and datalogical. And by this separation of content of data from the form, a new field, in fact, was created or emerged, information systems engineering, and made it intellectually managed. The very word, notion of information system, came into the language at that moment. Before, nobody talked about that. In retrospect, I could call this the language fact perspective of communication. Basically, it says that every elementary sentence represents a fact, elementary fact. And in doing this, you make a mistake, you could say now. Yeah? You exclusively consider assertive sentences, which means you disregard all other illocutions. Typical exponents of the LFP are Sean Eisen, with Nian, Terry Helpman, OM, and, well, I should have added maybe Guido Wagner, with FCO IM, the Netherlands. Yeah? What did LFP bring us? A well-defined notion of information. That's clear. Yeah? The language action perspective. I hope this is, yeah, this is correct. Must be some gut-based. Oh no, it's the same problem. The 90s of the 20th century. So 30 years later, an international group of researchers started to investigate things, another thing in language, in communication, the notion of elocution or intention. That's the term by John Searle. And I use it because I have applied elocution for 50 years and people always said, what a strange word, Jan, is this? And then I thought, I stop. Now I use the word intention, which doesn't help because now you have not as well defined notion of elocution as elocution would have. But okay, you have asked for that. Yeah? It is based on the work of Vinogradov and Flores. I hope you all have read that book, Understanding Computers and Cognition. If you didn't, don't be ashamed now, but buy it. And at that time, the name Language Action Perspective was coined. And basically, language action perspective means that we say every sentence or better communicative act not only has this informational content, which we call the proposition, but it also has this intention. Typical exponents of lab are, yes, there are so many, I thought. Well, I must mention, if we now list some names, Jörg Goldkool, Mika Alins from Sweden, Hans Weigand in Tilburg, Jim Taylor, who was often there, Marijke Schoop, now at the University of Stuttgart, Do I forget somebody? Did I forget? No. I mean, there were many more people. But myself, yes, I was also. Aldo de Moor, if you still know him. Aldo de Moor was also an active member. So it was really a nice group. And we have been a working group, called Lab, for 10 years. The last meeting was in 2005 in Lapland. I proposed the Swedish guys to have that last one in Lapland. So we did it. And yeah, it was over because there was no further growth, in fact. We came not up with new ideas, we didn't grow as a community, etc. The lab has brought us a well-defined notion of action. And for me, that particularly paved the way for enterprise engineering and make it possible to understand enterprise engineering intellectually, manage it intellectually. Yes, so what does it mean? In fact, what do we have? We have this foundation of communication. On top of that, the notion of information and action. And on top of that, the new notion of a better notion of organization. Put it in these understandings. Which makes, and for me this is a very important slogan, communication is a thread of which organizations is woven. So it means without communication there is no organization, and since only people can communicate, there is no organization without people. Now, I talked about the sources for enterprise engineering, the information system sciences and organization sciences. And I think if you would look at how did it evolve, then we had the time before 1970, in which we only talked about EDP, electronic data processing. The word was data, really the word information didn't exist. When I started at Philips, we didn't talk about information, only data. And we had a journal, a weekly journal even, and that was called EDP Analyze. And suddenly, somewhere early 1973, I remember, I got the same thing on my desk, and now the title was IS Analyzer, Information System Analyzer. That happened all around 1970. So this happened. We, after Langerfors and many other people, we became aware of content next to form, information, and the field of information system engineering was born. And now, and that's the work of lab, we have this notion of intention, which means we can also connect things like action to information and commitment based on the theory of Habermas. And now this, I hope, is going to evolve into enterprise engineering. The Psi theory. And I must hurry up, Stijn told me. The operating principle, human beings enter into comply with commitments in universal patterns called transactions and actor rules. Now this is the basic transaction process. A request, a promise, actually doing the things you are going to deliver as produced to the consumer, the state and the accept. Example, you're going to buy a bouquet of flowers and the florist owner is called Celestine, and this is what you actually do by uttering this sentence. And now I go quickly to the end, because most of you know already a bit about language action perspective. The thing is that every time you refer to the same proposition, but your intention was different. And these are the basic intentions. Request, promise, state, and accept. Now they come into a pattern called pattern of transaction process. This is a standard one, which you also can decline instead of promise and reject instead of accept. And basically it is 3 phases: an actogenic conversation, it is the real execution, and it is the factogenic conversation and the result phase, the R phase. This is the complete transaction process. 4 so-called cancellation patterns are added to it, or revocation. This complete transaction process is squeezed, pushed, so to say, into one symbol that we use in demo diagrams. The diamond of production embedded in the circle of coordination, and that is a play. Every transaction is a play between 2 actor roles. One is the initiator, the other the executor. Now, a real business process, as you could observe it in practice, is some process through a tree of transactions. And within every transaction, it can also go in all directions and can have many repetitions. That's the idea. So a business process is something like this. And this is what you see, for instance, in a flowchart or battery net or BPMN or whatever you have, in which you have lost 2 things. One is this structure, that it is a tree, and the whole notion of transaction, of course. This all in sequence, but it can also be parallel. Now you think it's going left, but it's going right. Because this was intentional. Because now I think that I thought that this one was optional. Yeah, that may be the case. Strange, all people expect that it goes left, but it never goes left. Okay. Yeah, I made that already. Okay. An important thing, other point, basic thing in the theory is that people have 3 abilities called forma, informa, and performa. Speak, write, listen, read, formulate, use your mind, and this is on top of it, expose and evoke commitment. Now I have a small presentation to illustrate that, and that is because I had this connection with a Russian university, and after my first visit I came back home with, with these Matryoshka puppets, dolls. So it basically says that if you request somebody something to do, then you have to go through all this process. It's quite tiring, isn't it? Formulate thought, utter the sentence, have some medium to get it to the other side, perceive. Well, you can already see, I have no time now to elaborate on it, many things can go wrong. Now here comes my own kind of animation of this. So to illustrate this process, me, you, we. In my blue me, I hear the words you utter. In my green me, I interpret the thought you've expressed in the utterance. In my red me, I understand your intention. You want me to help me. You want me to help you. In my blank me, I am my real self, pure and naked and vulnerable. My blank me wants to help you. I promise my help in my red me. I form the thought in my green me. I utter it in my blue me and hope that you will hear me. This blank me is really important. So at the basis of organization, the notion of organization is these human beings that I call the pearls of any organization. And we must do much more on employee empowerment, giving people more responsibility, authority, etc., etc. They deserve it. Okay, the same things you can apply to production. Store, retrieve, transmit data. Remember, recall, compute, reason, information, and decide, judge, make. That is all creating new original things. This gives rise to 3 aspect organizations: ontological, informational, and documental. So this is copying, storing, transmitting data, remembering, computing, reasoning. This is the division that you can make in any organization. It doesn't mean that there are people exclusively here, here, and there. No, you can. One person can be in all three, but it is the distinction you can apply. And the important difference between information and original production is that this does not create new facts. You can compute as much as you want, but you do not change the world. You only present them in a different way. It was already there, so you see. You only have to compute it. Demo is the last part. So that is the methodology, design and engineering methodology for organizations. Yeah, this is about essence, and if you know it, it's also simple. Now it is really also about simplicity. Yeah? What Demo does is take this whole organization and make a model, ontological model of that part, divided into 4 aspect models. And if you do that, then we call that the essential model of the enterprise. An example of the top level, this construction model this is, by the way, from healthcare. So this is, in fact, the generic care network. So that's how it looks like, a construction of actor roles, all these rectangles and transactions. Now, to look at it from a distinction that people often make between process and product, you can put the 4 aspect models in this way into that field, which means that actors' transactions are on both sides. Business process, business event is pure process model. Business object effects, pure state model. And rules are on the coordination side, work instructions on the production side. Do I have to hurry up?
Yep.
Yeah, I have to. Okay, I'm hurrying up now. Yeah, you see? Yeah, post-merger integration of the carbon divisions.
Take it easy, Jan. Take it easy. It's okay. It's
Yeah?
okay. Yeah, yeah.
Organization of civil engineering projects. That is, I mean, it is a standard now, and I don't know exactly what standard it is, but and it is now a directive of Rijkswaterstaat in all these projects to apply it. It is now being applied in Japan for disaster management, so they want to learn from what they did wrong. And we have done a similar study already in the Netherlands. And so you can use a demo model to do that. What is the basic contribution? That is that you make clear what are the different authorities and responsibilities, independent from to whom you assign it later. Yeah? That it is, and how these are related. And a very nice one, and that's particularly about employee empowerment, that's also still going on at the Royal Netherlands Marche, and the police also wants to take it over. Now, this is the last slide. We have an Enterprise Engineering Institute next to this CHAO network. The CHAO network is the research part. This is the practice-oriented organization. We have now in development a postgraduate university master in Enterprise Engineering. It's a cooperation of the University of Antwerp, particularly the Antwerp Management School, and TopTech, that is the institute in Delft for these kind of things. These are the current members of the board, and Erik is in it.
It's a new slide.
Yeah, sorry, I'm really sorry that, okay. So you see, these are all people from practice, although some are professors, but he's a real university guy. But most of them are people from practice or entrepreneurs, etc.
Thank you.
This is my presentation.
Okay. There's not much time for questions, but I wouldn't want to be so honest.
Okay.
On any. There's one thing I want to raise myself first is, some of you might have been wondering, where's the emergence in all this? It's partly my mistake that when we read the talk, that I gave him ample room to talk about his main story, and he said, oh well, we'll revert the discussion about emergence to the forum discussion, which we will, right, so you can take your revenge there. I would like to ask you openly the question simply like, okay, so how does this relate to emergence without desiring you to expand on it?
Okay, I should have elaborated the notion of enterprise governance, but that was not the main part of my talk. So governance is, in any enterprise, the capacity to bring about change. And that can emerge. So people can, for instance, at one day think, hey, why don't we use Dropbox? Or why I'm not going to do this process in a different way? Ideas come up. Yeah? And that is already part of governance, and part of enterprise engineering. So we do acknowledge this phenomenon. Yeah? And the next thing then is, and then I think the engineering attitude comes in. Okay, if it is a good idea, considered a good idea or proven a good idea, then we have somehow to implement it, and that needs more than only emergence. That is my point of view, at least. But you cannot plan change, plan governance. So all books about governance, and you particularly see that in IT governance, don't believe it. That's not true. Yeah? Governance is something that comes up, and it must always be there. You, in your own life, you also have governance. You have your operational you, and you have your governance you. You always are also thinking of, could I do this different, better, etc., etc. That's for me. That is the emergence part. Yeah.
Okay, so that's, at least it's the beginning. Again, we'll return to this in the forum discussion. I want to allow one question if anyone has it. Otherwise, we run for coffee. We run for coffee.
Okay.